Welcome to the Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for being with us. For many parents, maintaining a relationship with their children isn't simply a matter of showing up or waking up in the morning. Divorce, incarceration, financial hardship, and other life circumstances can create distance between parents and their kids. On top of those challenges, some parents face systemic barriers, from navigating the court system to finding stable housing or employment. And often, fathers are the ones that may experience separation from their child due to these circumstances. But research shows that when fathers show interest in their children's lives, their health, learning, and confidence improve, while risks like poverty and behavioral challenges are reduced. Today, we're joined by Northeast Ohioans who are working to help fathers overcome those obstacles, strengthen their parenting skills, and build lifelong healthy relationships. With me today in studio, we have Margaret Bernstein, author of Dad's Storybooks and literacy advocate. Margaret, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Very happy to have you here. We also have with us Randall Jellison, Fatherhood Project Manager at the Early Childhood Resource Center in Canton. Randy, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And also with us, we have LeBron Terrell, Fatherhood Coach at Passages in Cleveland. LeBron, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you would like to join this conversation, you can call us at 866-578-0903. Maybe you have a question about resources for fathers. Maybe you have a story you'd like to share about your own parenting or your own experience with your father growing up. You can also email us at soi@ideastream.org, or you can message us on Instagram. We're at The Sound of Ideas. LeBron, I'd like to start with you and ask you about Passages. It's served low-income families here in Northeast Ohio for more than 2 decades. Can you tell us how Passages got started and how the mission has grown?
Of course. So my name is LeBron Terrell, of course, and I'm a fatherhood coach at Passages Connecting Fathers and Families, where we serve most of the counties, and my favorite 3, of course, that right now we're working with are, of course, Cleveland, which is Cuyahoga County. We have Lake and Lorain County. Now, about Passages, our goal isn't just to connect the fathers and families, but to also strengthen those fathers and strengthen those families. So that way, those strong families turn into strong communities. Now, to your point, the communities that we also want to strengthen are the ones that we don't see, which are the ones that are also incarcerated as well, because we also deal with incarcerated fathers, and we have programs for fatherhood on different journeys. But it started off as an actual transportation sort of organization to actually help incarcerated fathers see their children. From there, the fruits of the labor of Dr. Moore, who is our CEO, then graduated into what we know now as Passages Connecting Fathers and Families, and where now we host fatherhood sessions, career stability, housing, employment. We have housing and employment, actually. We also have basic needs assistance, literally anything that a father needs when he's coming through those doors. It's my job, but also the organization's job to meet. And also, to your point, I love how you also said the 2 decades part. It's amazing how we have dads who've graduated from the program literally 2 decades ago and are still coming in, just sort of providing the fruits of their labor and sort of giving hope and also giving the energy and the accountability and helping us with the other fathers who are seeking that same assistance.
Real full circle moment there in some ways for some people, for sure. Randy, tell us a bit about the programming at the Early Childhood Resource Center in Canton.
Yeah, sure. So we got our roots. We're a ministry, man, where we just want to see the child thrive. We're all about, one of the mottos around there is that everything centers around the child. Our roots are in the Catholic ministry of nuns coming over, establishing hospitals, really just taking care of the core needs of humanity. And I believe it was around 2000, the Early Childhood Resource Center came underneath that banner and started working with children in kindergarten readiness. So, we got a Spark program. We're a child care referral. We step up the quality. We work with child care agencies to help increase what they're doing with value, and just my sliver is with fatherhood. I work with fathers, and so fatherlessness is my business. And man, I just got a real compassion and heart to see dad engage with his children, and so. I'm sure we'll be getting into it, talking about it, but Ironclad Dad is our latest initiative that we're working to kind of hit the blue collar, white collar dad. And so we've done a lot of work in reentry. That's kind of been our bread and butter, and we just really kind of recently been trying to reach out to the rest of the community. Yeah.
We will be hearing more about that in
Awesome.
just a little bit. That's
Yep.
what we call a deep tease
Yeah.
for our audience.
Yeah.
And Margaret, you co-authored a book called The Bond, and that followed three men who reconnected with their fathers. That later led to you creating Dad Storybooks. That's a series that you work on children's books. Why did you decide to focus your writing on the father-child relationship?
Yes, so when I was a reporter at the Plain Dealer, I had the opportunity to write about these three guys who are called the Three Doctors. At the time, they had a New York Times bestseller called The Pact, about how they grew up and met each other as students at a junior high school in Newark, New Jersey, grew up in a poor neighborhood, and they happened to get invited to a opportunity to get a free college and dental school scholarship and medical school scholarships. So their first book was a runaway hit, and so I interviewed them and wrote about them on the front page of the Plain Dealer, and they invited me to write their next book. They liked my story so much. So their next book, they wanted to really dive into the fact that they had succeeded despite not having fathers in their lives. And they thought that had had a profound impact on them and given them even more challenges as they navigated college and medical school and dental school, the first in their family to do so. And so as I was researching the book, I just became really intrigued and moved by all the statistics that surround children who grow up without fathers in their lives. Those young people are more likely to perform poorly in school. They're more likely to drop out of school. They're more likely to have a teen pregnancy, to try drugs, alcohol at an early age. They're more likely to get arrested and become incarcerated. And so as I looked at all of these stats and included them in the book, I just asked myself, what can I do? I'm just one person, but these are staggering statistics that really are going to hold children back, and I wanted to do something. And so that's why I started writing Dad Storybooks.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Margaret. LeBron, I want to ask you, why did you decide to become a fatherhood coach?
Yes. So personally, let me go ahead and give them a little shout out. I have two amazing daughters named Milani and Mahogany. And honestly, it is a blessing. And like I was telling Randall, to see the fruits of my labor literally come into fruition, just to now be working at Passages and give the same seeds that I'm still learning and growing as a 28-year-old to be able to then pass that on to men who are older than me. And for me, I preach all the time, children don't need your presence. Well, no, they don't need your perfection. They need your presence. That's something that I just think as a father, that's really something that we beat ourselves up on, is it's not good enough. And I just try to shape and mold that expectation, because it's not bad to have expectations. It's a matter of putting yourself into reality and understanding that now you have to sacrifice some of those selfish expectations because it's bigger than you. And that's part of the strengthening, where sometimes a dad who isn't facing incarceration, who's just a regular father, may need case assignment or may need just housing resources or anything. It's my job just to make sure, and sort of what Margaret said, I just felt like I was always blessed and with a calling just to help people, because I've always thought it's something always bigger than me. And I just believe strengthening, giving the hope, but also understanding that coming from a strong family, I'm blessed to be able to give that to other communities on any level that I can. And also personally, I'm not gonna lie, like just waking up and being blessed to really be able to do something that is bigger than me is something that I can never ever take for granted, just because I understand how hard it is for employment services as a whole. Just waking up and being able to literally understand and let my daughters know that I'm changing lives. That says a lot to me, and also it says a lot for my daughters, because on career day last year, that was something my daughter spoke about, is, my dad changes lives. And I thought that was very, very sentimental, because if my daughter can see the fruits of my labor, of what an active, what an accountable, what a responsible father can be, and how I can share that to other communities, there's no telling where fatherhood can go.
So we know one of your children is old enough to have a career day. How old are your girls?
So I have a 6-year-old who will be in first grade this year, and then I have a 2-year-old. I was just telling one loves ballet and dancing. The other one, I have a few shin splints and shin guards, because that one, she just loves kicking. But I honestly just love everything about family, and I just do believe a great, strong family 1000% can affect a whole community.
If you're just joining us here on The Sound of Ideas, we are talking about the father-child connection. If you have a comment or a question, you can give us a call at 866-578-0903. You can also email us at soi@ideastream.org, or you can send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Now let's start to talk about some of those tenets that make for a successful father-child dynamic. Margaret, you work with an organization called the Healthy Fathering Collaborative of Greater Cleveland. I'd like to ask what you've learned there through your involvement there about building trust between children and parents, both repairing trust maybe when it's been broken, and also establishing trust if there hasn't been a relationship that's already been formed.
Well, the Healthy Fathering Collaborative has been an awesome supporter for me. One of the things that we've done is just try together to express the importance of dads just reading with their children as a way of building the bond and repairing that trust. Sometimes, we've been talking about it this morning, even in our preparation. Fathers who did not have role models of fathers themselves do not even know how to begin repairing the relationship. They didn't see one as they were growing up. And so one easy way to do that is to read with your child and spend that time just exploring books and building that bond just by reading with them and giving them your full attention. The Healthy Fathering Collaborative and I have worked very hard on the Father's Walk, which is an annual event that schools have where fathers are encouraged at the beginning of the school year to walk their child into school, and there's a series of activities for them. This is also a very important way that dads can start to know their child's teacher and get involved and volunteer at their school. And we've been very successful in getting the Father's Walk to build literacy as one of their key messages. We love it when they talk to dads when they're there and give them books and just explain, you've got to build that library of your child. This is something really important that fathers can do that not only helps them build the bond, as we've been talking about, but children perform better in school when they have books in the home. And so dads also can spread that message.
Randy, I want to ask you about fathers who aren't necessarily separated from their children, but they're trying to be better, they're trying to be more present, they're trying to enrich the bond that they have access to. One of the ways you do that is through Ironclad Dads. So can you
Sure.
tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to say it's a brotherhood around fatherhood. So we meet every other Wednesday. We're getting ready to kick off our fall sessions and really just get after having those conversations. We were in the lobby talking about what does it mean to be a man, boyhood and manhood. Some of the things that I was just thinking of it, listening to the other guests is like, overcoming your own childhood traumas, have to battle of being a dad. And so this is a place where everyday dad can just come and tell his story, and iron can sharpen iron, and we can get to a place to where we're healthy so that we can pour out into our sons and into our daughters. Man, we break bread every time we meet, man. We have home cooked meals that are donated. Is really just great. So we'll just come together and just talk, build relationship, friendship, and then we'll get into a topic centered on fatherhood and just pour our lives out into the 2 hours. It feels like 5 minutes. And so, we do some other things. We just did a drills with dad where I know Terrell was talking about his daughter beating him up. We were in the ring beating each other up. And so we were having a great time doing that. My oldest son, I think was waiting. He couldn't wait. We were sitting at dinner one night and I said, "Hey man, you come to drills with dad, right?" And he was like, "Oh, we're boxing?" He just kind of looked up at me, gave me some eye contact, like I've been waiting for this for a long time. So, wow. But man, we just, we want to grow together, as dad. And it takes time to do that, Go ahead.
And we asked LeBron, how old are your child kids?
Yeah. So I got a blended family, which I feel like is just unique, or not unique, but it gives me some relatability to dad everywhere. So I got 5 kids. I got 18, 16, and then got remarried, and we got 6, 4, and 2. So
Oh,
four
okay,
boys,
okay.
yeah, 4 boys, 1 girl. So my house is lively, and I moved my father-in-law in too. So we got 8 people and about 1,500 square feet, and so
Got
it's
Roblox in
fun.
there
It's
too?
awesome. Yeah. So
Quite a crew you
yeah,
got there.
absolutely.
Speaking of, we had the opportunity to talk to a member of your Ironclad Dads
Okay.
crew.
Yeah.
This is 29-year-old Evan Kessler. Evan has a 5-year-old son named August and a 4-month-old daughter named Lily. Here's an excerpt of my conversation with Evan.
So for me, it wasn't necessarily like a connection issue. It was more so of looking for an organization that could equip me with the tools that I needed to learn about how to be a better dad, not just now, but as, August continues to get older and, like I said, different stages as we move through them together, how I can be the best dad possible. So like more specifically now, the organization called Ironclad Dads has really given me more confidence as I continue to father August, especially with just learning more about, how I'm not alone in the challenges that other fathers face with younger kids, especially boys, right? Like boys tend to have a little bit more energy and are a little bit more rambunctious, maybe a little bit more on the dangerous side. So learning how to have patience, really control my response, making sure it's not necessarily like an anger response, but making sure like how I'm talking to August is also teaching him the values of, I am dad, but I'm also not your enemy, so just kind of like coddling, helping that relationship as far as how we're communicating back and forth and just how to, really in the best way possible manage his curiosities and make sure that that curiosity that he's had is not met with well just stop doing that, don't do that, but explaining why, how that could lead to him hurting himself or danger. So it's been really helpful in those regards, just to name a few.
How did you become aware of Ironclad Dads?
Yeah, actually through my son's preschool. I just was picking him up from preschool one day, and there was a flyer there, and yeah, one of the things it said was free food. So obviously that caught my attention. But it was just a flyer at his preschool.
Are there ways that you can tell us that you've seen a difference? Has there been a difference in the relationship with August since you started using the services of Ironclad Dads?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, one of the biggest things that it's helped give me community as well. So like that, with that community of other dads who, because there's guys that are younger than me in their early 20s who are becoming new dads, all the way to guys in their, 60s and 70s. So it's really cool to be able to share my experiences with guys who have already done it and maybe onto that grandparent phase, and just to allow their insight and expertise, in addition to Randy's expertise, who leads the group, to just kind of to help me with August again, how we're communicating with one another. And yeah, totally, it's totally changed, how we connect, and it's just helped grow our bond together as father and son.
With August and with the new addition, has that presented new challenges?
Definitely, yeah. I will say we are blessed in the sense that August absolutely loves his baby sister. So that is a blessing. She absolutely adores him. She can't keep her eyes off of him when he's playing with her, and so that's been really beautiful to see them kind of come together. But absolutely, it does. With August technically not being from my wife, who I'm married to now, it, coming from a little bit of like a divided home, so to speak, it definitely has created new things that have come up, and essentially we just kind of work through them, and because obviously a new baby requires a lot of attention. So with that, August has then therefore received less attention, and so just kind of working through that and just, reaffirming, we love him, and, he might not always get all the attention that he wants, but in that's also teaching him patience. So, there's been some really beautiful things that have transpired through the new challenges that have come.
One final question here before we wrap up, Evan. What is your custody relationship like with August? How much time are you spending with him? And has that changed since being involved with Ironclad Dads?
Even before Ironclad Dads, I was seeing him every other week. So the time period or amount of time that we were having together hasn't changed. But Ironclad Dads has really helped with the connection piece and the quality and of the time that we have together. Like I said, just Ironclad Dads has just kind of helped break down some barriers that were there that I hadn't even realized I had placed there, whether that be inadvertently or maybe from trauma that I went through with my own father and things that I hadn't yet healed through. So not only has Ironclad Dads helped me as a father and an individual, but because I've learned that I was also a son at one time and had a father that did his best but wasn't perfect. So breaking that generational trauma, so to speak, and kind of working through my own healing and being made aware of that has led to an amazing, like I said, connection with my son, and just the quality of time that we have together is so much better and just full of love.
That was 29-year-old Evan Kessler of Navarre, Ohio, in Stark County, not far from my hometown in Canton.
All right.
And he's an Ironclad Dads participant, which is out of the
Absolutely.
Early Childhood Resource Center in Canton. If you're just joining us here on The Sound of Ideas, we are talking about the father-child relationship. If you want to be a part of this conversation, you can call us at 866-578-0903. You can email us at soi@ideastream.org. You can also send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. We have a call now from Todd in Ward 1. Todd, welcome to The Sound of Ideas. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephanie, Margaret, Randall, and LeBron. I am a dad multiple times over, gratefully, and this is connected to something that me and a few other people are putting together, planning parenthood prior to conception. So this broadcast is of particular interest to me. I'd like to know if any of you have worked to explain in detail with the fathers that you work with how the first thing you have to deal with is that the purpose of your existence in life has changed once you become a parent. And because that purpose of your existence has changed, you have to learn to embrace the consequences of being there for the healthy protection and the healthy progression and what that means of that child. Do you talk with them either in those exact words or words that connect to those exact pursuits? Let me know. I like to hear how you feel about it. And if you didn't grasp exactly what I said, I'll repeat it. But go ahead.
I think we got a
I was
good
gonna say,
grasp.
I
Go ahead.
didn't want to speak first. You can go
Sure.
ahead for sure.
Okay, well,
for sure, what I would say is 1,000% going into what Randy said about his Ironclad. We also talk about the 24/7 dad. And within those 24/7 dad situations, one of those situations could be what it means to be a man. And a lot of those situations, when a dad is going into our curriculum, he either to your point, is a newborn or new expecting father, or he's already a currently father. And I think the question of what you're talking about is, one, accountability and sacrifices. We literally were just sort of, before this even started, discussing about what is important and what love is, because I wanted to talk about Evan as well. Evan said something that was very important. Love is what you do in spite of how you feel. And we say that to dads because, to your point, your love also evolves. Because before your child came, you only thought to love yourself. Now, to your point, you have to sacrifice that selfishness of love about yourself, and now you have to pour that on into your child, which is going right into the strengthening part. Because at the end of the day, too, what you said, Mr. Warren, is, again, I already know Mr. Randy has already said it, we're all here to strengthen each other. And especially if you are an expecting dad, this is literally, it's like you don't know how to swim. And you're about to dive right into the 8 feet. And the only thing you do is that 4-letter word and hope that you don't drown. But literally, you are in Ward 1. And I would definitely say, if you definitely want to, man, again, we are in Cleveland. let us know and definitely come on down, because for sure we would love to partner with you. But I agree, we sort of say the same sentiments at the end of the day. Accountability and really understanding that you're not alone. There is a support system, but you don't want to revolve, man. It's time to evolve. And I do believe that's exactly what you're preaching to the other fathers. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Randy, how about for you?
Yeah, no, I think that preparation is key. I was a dad trial by fire with my first one for sure. And I think many dads are in that trial by fire situation.
Mm-hmm.
That 24/7 dad's a curriculum we teach, and there's a flow chart in there. It talks about, a boy should become a man, and then a man should become a husband, and then that husband should become a father. Just with a testosterone load that's peaking in men at 19 years old, it's easy for a boy to become a father without ever experiencing manhood in its fullness. And so I advocate, for marriage and strong foundation so that those kids can have mom and dad in the home together. I feel like that is the best preparation, is making sure that the person that you want to have that baby with is someone that's willing to stick around for a lifetime. And if you can find the right one, you can start to insert your family value. You can start to insert just the threads that you want to raise your family in. And, that's key. So build a strong foundation and spend time with those kids. The things that you don't have marked out, and you won't be able to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. But when you cross those bridges, if love is the foundation, that foundation is strong. Whether it's, reading a good book or, trial and error, things are going to come together for you, man. So, man, just let love be that umbrella for all things, and build a strong foundation, create something that's lifelong.
Thank you for that, Randy. Speaking of reading a good book, Margaret, you brought a book. Can you share an excerpt of it with us and let us know which book it is you're reading from?
Sure, and I want to just give it up for these two gentlemen who were really out here in the trenches working to build that confidence.
Yes.
And shore up these men and let them know that they can do it. I really admire you guys, and the way I see it, my books are tools that you can use, or schools can use, or whoever is really working with dads, that you can use to help build their confidence and help them know that they can do this. My first book is the one I'm going to read from. It's called All in a Dad's Day, and it's just a short and sweet storybook that I always envision dads reading this to their kids. I'm very proud that there's thousands of them in circulation. They are self-published, and I do it's a labor of love. I'm trying to give dads a book that really reflects their own experiences. Illustrations, which are by Lincoln Adams, show that they show a dad who is in there working with his kids and giving his kids love. It starts out, Dad, if I got lost at the circus, what would you do? I'd leap onto an elephant's back and search the crowd for you. What if I went to the beach and got caught in a riptide? I'd grab you quick and keep you safe right here by my side. And what if my only wish, Dad, was to go to a big game with you? Then I'd save my money and stack it up to make your dream come true. I'm your dad, and don't you see? You never have to worry as long as you've got me. And so it goes on just to show different scenarios of things that a dad can do with his child, but also I always say just quietly allowing the dad to say, I love you on every page.
Sure. I'm just going to grab this book, and while you tell us just a little bit more about the illustrator, I just want to show some of these images here to our audio audience. How did you connect with the illustrator on this book, Margaret?
All right, well, great story. As I said, they're self-published. I had a little teeny tiny budget, and so I called over to Cleveland Institute of Art to ask could they possibly recommend a student. And as it turned out, Lincoln Adams is the head of the illustration department. And when I explained the project to him, he said that he would like to do it. And I was like, I told you about that little budget that I had. And he said, I want to do it anyway. And anyway, just very proud to have him and his beautiful artwork as part of this book.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Wow.
There is an element of your two programs, and Margaret, there's something that you had a recent experience with as well that I want to make sure that we talk about today. LeBron, one of your key programs that you have are the fatherhood conferences, and these take place inside correctional facilities. So can you tell us a bit about that conference and why these experiences are so meaningful?
Yes.
We have about 3 minutes left for the conversation.
No problem. So actually, I will go ahead and speed this up. That's really what I'm good at. Now, from a standpoint of the fatherhood conferences, we actually will be going to one this weekend. We will be at Lake Erie Correctional to literally empower, grow, water all of the fathers, to your point and also Margaret's point, from a standpoint of understanding two things. They need your presence, not your perfection. And love is what you do in spite of how you feel. And we just preach that, empower that over the next 3 days, and we will be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and really understanding that at the end of the day, we are all given dads hope and also accountability, value, laughter, love, all in 3 days, because we understand it is very hard, especially for the incarcerated dads, to see that light when they don't even have windows in their rooms. So the fact that we can be that light for them says a lot for me. And also it just gives me more reason to do this. So yep, we'll be at Lake Erie Correctional. I can't wait. And for the guys who are listening in Lake Erie, watch out. We are on the way.
Great. Randy, can you tell us a bit about the program that exists in your facility? It's called Inside Out Dad.
Yeah, well, we really use 24/7 Dad, Inside Out Dad, just similar curriculum design for, incarcerated settings. But yeah, no, it's just great curriculum, and it speaks about boys becoming men and just getting a shot of hope to engage their sons and their daughters, all kinds of things. Play, man, just the language, man, that we speak to our kids with. All kinds of things are in there: sex, love, relationships, how to control your headspace, your self-worth, so it's just a lot of great things that's coming out of those Inside Out Dad curriculums, 24/7 Dad curriculums. But we really are excited to give Dad hope and move him towards his children in those incarcerated settings, and with Ironclad Dad, get into situations that is helping Evan, navigate things in his blended family situations and beyond. So Ironclad Dad is fresh and it's new, and we're excited about growing in that Stark community. So,
Margaret, can you share a little bit with us about the experience that you recently had related to being supportive of fathers who might be incarcerated?
I was invited to go to the Cuyahoga Hills Juvenile Detention Facility, where they were having a dad summit all weekend long that was coordinated by the state Department of Youth Services. It was a beautiful thing, and they had all kinds of staff in from Columbus to celebrate these men. And their children actually were allowed to come in on Saturday morning, and they could spend time with them. And of course, these are juveniles, so their children were very young, babies, toddlers. Some of the first time that they're really able to spend with them. It was very moving. And I really thought, and this is to your caller Todd's point, that the message to these dads was, this is your chance to overcome whatever it is that put you here, and do this over for the benefit of your children. This is the moment when you get it together. And so look your child in the eye and let them know that you will do better when you get out. And so it was very profound. I was able to hand out my books thanks to a sponsorship, and I was able to teach those young dads tips for reading with their kids, because they really didn't, they didn't know.
Sure.
And it was a great opportunity.
Thank you very much for sharing your time with us here on this panel today. Margaret Bernstein, literacy advocate and author of Dad Storybooks. Margaret, thank you.
Thank you.
Also a personal friend, former coworker. Appreciate you
Absolutely.
being here. And Randall Jellison, fatherhood project manager at the Early Childhood Resource Center in Canton. Thank you, Randy.
cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
LeBron Terrell, fatherhood coach at Passages here in Cleveland. Thank you for the time.
Of course. And also I have one more thing. I'm so sorry. We talked about marriage, and I'm married, and I think this is not understated, but behind every strong man is even stronger woman. And I think people really need to understand that as well. So thank you again for having me.
What a unexpected shout out. That's very, very kind. Margaret over here is giving the snaps. Yes.
This is what we do in Passages. This is what we do.
Thank you so
Of course,
much
of
for the
course.
time. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll share a conversation with longtime co-host of Big Chuck and Little John, John Rinaldi, about his new book reflecting on his time in television. This is The Sound of Ideas. I'm Stephanie Haney. Stay with us. You're with The Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for staying with us. Generations of Clevelanders grew up watching the Big Chuck and Little John show and Houlihan and Big Chuck on Friday nights. IdeaStream Public Media's senior arts and culture reporter Kabir Bhatia got to speak with one of the stars of the show, Little John himself, who has a new book out about his life and work. We can't take your calls right now, but we do welcome your thoughts. You can email us at soi@ideastream.org or message us on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Here's that conversation.
My guest, in case you've sworn off television for the last 55 years, really needs no introduction other than that. Please welcome little John Rinaldi. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's
Thank
good. It's good to be here. I like this set. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is the new set here at IdeaStream, and we figured who better to be on it than you with this new book.
They wouldn't let me on the set at the Fox 8.
No, they wouldn't. Well, I tried to get them to rename the street for you here. No dice.
They named the lane
The Lane, that's what it is, at Channel 8. Yes,
Yeah.
you've got the lane. So it's Dick Goddard Way and,
Little John Lane.
yeah, right at the intersection there.
Well, what mine is a 35-foot sidewalk.
Okay.
Okay, that nobody uses.
Oh, no.
Because they can't get in the front door anymore.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
of security and everything. They have to
Right.
go through the side door.
Yeah, oh, no. Well, either
But
way.
it's still a lane.
It's still a lane. You still got something. That's
Right.
permanent. That and
Yep.
this book, which I know that. Well, let me ask you the first thing I was wondering. Of course, your longtime on-screen partner, Big Chuck. He sadly, of course, passed away. But
On my birthday.
that's right. You mentioned that in the book. Your birthday last year. Well, he wrote his book about 15 years ago, I think. So, what made you decide now is the time for my book?
You know what? I never wanted to write a book. Never in a million years. And a guy by the name of Carl Hendricks called me one day, and he said he's writing a book, and could he interview me? And his book is from Goulardi till we went off the air.
Okay.
And he says he interviewed Houlihan, he interviewed Big Chuck, he interviewed Dick Goddard. And I says, yeah. I says, interview me, no problem. I said, but send me what you wrote.
Right.
Which I tell everybody, and 80% don't. Okay. So anyway, he sent it to me, and I was reading it, and I turned to my wife and I said, this guy writes like I talk. I like this.
Yeah.
I says, I got time now. I'm retired. I'm gonna write a book. So I called him up and I said, hey, I really like the way you write and everything like that. Would you write my book for me? He goes, I'm not an author. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I'm a financial advisor.
Okay.
He says, I'm writing this book for kicks. He says, it'll never be published. He says, I'm just writing it.
Oh.
And so I said, okay, think about it though. So then I called 3 people, and the first person I called, they said, you're 10 years too late. And I says, well, I didn't want to write a book 10 years ago. I want to write it now. Okay. You don't have a show. You don't do, you have to promote it and everything. Okay. Then and who's writing the book? And I says, Carl Hendricks. Who's he? I said, financial advisor.
Yeah.
And he said, no. We'll get you a writer, professional writer. Then I called the next guy called Neil Zerker. And Neil says, I told you to write a book 20 years ago. And I said, okay, who's writing your book?
Yeah.
And I said, Carl Hendricks. He goes, who's he? I said, a financial advisor. And he says, no, we'll get somebody to write the book for you.
No.
And I said, okay. Then I called my old boss, Kevin Sawyer.
Yeah.
And I told him, he says, great. Anything I could do to help you, fine. It's a great idea. Who's writing the book?
Uh-oh.
I said, Carl Hendricks. He goes, who's he? A financial advisor.
Right.
He goes, I'll get it.
you
We'll get it.
somebody.
Okay. I said, good. I called the guy back. I never met him. I understand.
Right.
Okay. I called him back and I said, you're my writer.
Well, there you go.
And now I know for sure.
Yes.
And then I told him, I said, listen, we're not going to write a book that you sit in my basement and I sit in your basement and just talk. No, you're going to go with me and do the things I do in regular life. And I said, so be prepared to do a lot of drinking, a lot of eating. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
He would show up and have little microphones and just follow me around. And I'd tell stories and then he put it all together. So, like I said, I probably have $5,000 in this book on food and booze.
Hopefully, it's going to be coming back to you somehow.
No, what you make on a book, forget it.
No. There you go. Well, I've read his book, Mr. Zerker's book, and this reads just as well. His was the one about disasters. Yours is like the exact opposite. You seem to have a guardian angel.
Yeah.
Wherever you're in Las Vegas, you're in Pittsburgh, you're trying to get a loan for your business, and things just always click for you.
It's smoke and mirrors. That's what I always said. My life has been smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the book, I was glad to see you've weaved them together very, very well. The TV part that we've all seen a lot of on the behind the scenes portion, and then your actual life, which just sounds idyllic, growing up in an Italian family in Cleveland, 40s, 50s, 60s.
When I started to write the book, and I told the publisher this is what I want to do, he kept saying, no, you need more TV. I go, no, I want people to know I had a life beside TV, and it's a good life. I had an interesting life. I said, he goes, but everybody knows you from TV. I said, I understand that. So, but this is what I want. So it was a fight back and forth for
Yeah.
things.
This has got a lot of great stories in it, and this must be sort of homecoming for you. Your store used to be just down the street, the
Oh
jewelry
yeah,
store,
jewelry store, right.
and then
And
Channel 8.
Channel 8, across the street, and then I worked next door. Used to be Colin Hubbard.
Oh, that's yes, at the
That-
corner.
That was what I started in the jewelry business, was Colin Hubbard.
Okay, so you were-
I worked there for 12 years.
You were all around this area. You were here though in like the down period where the rest of the street, what we now look at as the theaters, the players, they were closing and demolishing
Oh yeah,
almost.
it was ugly.
It was ugly.
A lot of it was ugly.
At the store, you talk about so many incidents at your store where something went awry, somebody came in, they left with a ring.
switch, yeah.
Yeah, they switched the rings, or a friend's kid hit the alarm by accident.
Yeah, and my salesman, his son, they were watching a parade go by and didn't realize he was behind the counter, and he hit the alarm.
And then in the middle of a parade, you're just swarmed.
They come flying.
Yeah.
They come flying. They cop cars this way, cop cars this way.
Yeah.
And it was funny because they get out of the car and you say, hey, oh, there's no problem, no problem. But they did the right thing. They did the smart thing. They made us go against the wall, and then they checked the store out to make sure nobody was in a bathroom with a gun on somebody or anything.
Sure.
So they did the right thing. The Cleveland police did the right thing.
So you talk a lot in the book about your family both growing up, your mom who kept the kitchen spotless and waited on you, then your wife Sherry, who's very different as far as
Oh yeah.
what's the quote? The food's you're gonna have to scoop it up
It
yourself.
doesn't. Right. You have to understand. I lived in an Italian family, and my mother, I didn't put my socks on until I was in the 12th grade. Okay, I used to stick my leg out of the bed. She'd put them on, and I'd go eat. You sit down. She puts a napkin around you. She gives you the right amount of food to eat. Takes it away, and I'll bet you. I don't think I saw my mother sit down 10 times to eat.
Wow.
Because she was always waiting on my brother, my father, and I, and
Yeah.
my sister, and she'd go back in the kitchen. She used to always say she picked.
Okay.
So,
In between that. Now, when you talk about this, you said your wife she's a little bit Italian.
yeah,
Not-
she's about an eighth.
Yeah. Okay. I'm curious. What are because I don't think you get into it in the book. What are the dishes? You said she's a fabulous cook.
Oh, she can make anything.
Anything.
And Italian, just like she makes sauce just like my mother. My mother never taught her. It's amazing. No, she's an amazing cook, and that I'll put her up against almost anybody. And we have a group of friends, and they can cook like crazy. The wives or the guys,
Right.
They can cook like crazy.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's why I got this body. You think?
Well, okay. I was going to say though, you look pretty much the same as I remember. We interviewed about 15 years ago, and as I remember you on TV. I wonder if it's just the happiness, the glow that keeps
Well,
you.
I keep telling people it's good booze,
Okay.
and oil of Olay.
Oh well, two good things. But you're only drinking one of them though.
Yeah,
you're
that's
only
right,
applying the other.
Right.
So you were on for overall 55. Well, it's been 55 years since your first sketch with Big Chuck.
And if you count till now, I'm still going.
You're still going. I still see you're so active on Facebook and
they still show the show on
Right.
reruns on Sunday night. So you got to keep that going. And every now and then I pop up on the news.
Right.
I do things for the news. So it's been a good run.
Yeah,
And considering we never had a contract.
yeah. So that's what I was going to ask. You outlasted so many different regimes and executives, schedule changes, ownership changes at Channel 8. Why do you think that was? I think you said quarterly you would wait to see if you were on
Well, at the
schedule.
beginning, yeah, because we didn't have a contract. We'd look and see if we're still going to be there. They'd come out every 13 weeks and give you the rundown who's going to be there. And, well, first of all, it cost them nothing to have us. We were 100% sold out, and we didn't bother anybody. I mean, we came in. I came in the back door, went to the studio, and went out the back door. I didn't roam the station or anything. But we made our own sets. We did all our own.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was the only and we're taping when they'd either be sitting down doing nothing, or taping our show.
Yeah.
And so
Worked out pretty well. And you would handle all the outside appearances.
yeah, Chuck was Mr. Inside, and I was Mr. Outside. So all the personal appearances, all the contracts, all the basketball games, all the charity events, everything.
And so the inside part, as you said, he was very hands-on with the editing, the sketches, but
Very.
probably 2,000, I think you estimated 2,000 sketches.
We have over 2,000 skits, and I wrote 6. And I still say they're the 6 funniest.
Okay. I found the one the other day, and I showed my kids where it's the head of lettuce, which I think was one of
Half
yours.
Head List, that was mine.
Yeah. And
But I
then,
copied that from. I stole that from Flip Wilson.
oh, okay.
He did it.
Well, I hope he doesn't see this. No, I'm
Yeah, I
kidding.
don't think he will.
No, tough area code. But you had half a head of lettuce, and then there was just so many different ones over the years. When you go onto like YouTube and search Big Chuck and Little John, somebody has a playlist, the best of Big Chuck and Little. There's 457 different sketches just in that. Can you remember the ones that eventually? Well, first, I think you're going to tell me. So go ahead.
Well, usually I remember them all.
Okay.
If you start it, I can finish it and tell you, you
Yeah.
know, what happened and everything.
What are the ones, though, as time went on, and you allude to this in the book, that the station was like, maybe don't show this one anymore?
Well, again, back then it was called Certain Ethnic. We made fun of everybody. It wasn't, you know, just Polish, Italian, blacks, white. We made fun of everybody. And then as time went on, people started getting sensitive, which I have no idea. You should not be sensitive when it's funny. Funny's funny. I don't care what it is. Okay.
You didn't grow up watching much
No.
TV of any kind. You didn't even have TV initially, except for your uncle, I think you said.
My uncle, yeah, we got TVs when it started, but it was about this big.
Right.
And they weighed like 700 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but there was only 3 stations.
Right.
Okay. And at that time, there was probably only 2. And I remember Lynn Sheldon, who was Barnaby, he was telling me that he was the original guy on television. He did the first, you know, live on air in Cleveland. And he said they used to go in the morning, and the director would say, how long could you give me? He'd say, about 2 hours. How long could you give me? About 3 hours. Okay, we'll be on 5 hours today.
Oh, wow.
That's how it was
Yeah, pretty
back then.
fly by the seat of your pants, I guess, back then.
Very new.
Yeah, but you were Mr. Social on Friday nights. You weren't really
Well,
watching
you know, that's the
show.
thing. Yeah. To this day, I'm out like that. And that's what I love DVR, because you can watch it at 3 in the morning, at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And that. So when Chuck called and everything, I knew about the show, but it wasn't like I was glued to it every Friday. I wasn't.
Right, and then
And
somehow-
even like people would see me during the week, and they'd say, "Oh, I saw your show last week." He said, "And that movie, that part." I go, "I didn't watch the movie.
No.
We taped it,
Yeah,
and then they would put the movie inside."
right.
Okay. Now everybody said, "Well, you talked about the movie." Well, we had a cheat sheet that they gave a rundown every 15 minutes what happened in the movie, so we could always refer to that. Oh yeah, Peter ran over here.
Right.
We didn't see it.
Yeah. Reading the book, you don't come out and say this, but this is the sense I get. You tell me if I'm right. You and Chuck, your working relationship reminded me very much of, and your personalities, Bob Newhart and Don Rickles, who were best friends. Have you ever heard this? What do you think?
No, I've never heard, but we were best friends.
Yeah.
We were definitely, and we're total opposites. I'm like, okay. Chuck was very quiet and reserved and everything, and unless he was Big Chuck.
Right.
Then, okay. And me, I'm like me all the time, so that's why my wife hates me.
Oh, no.
Because I wake up happy, I go to bed happy.
And you now, I mean, part of the year you're not up here in Northeast Ohio.
No,
You're
I
retired.
spend the winters in Florida.
Yeah.
I can't take the cold anymore.
You've had it.
And I came back like the middle to the end of May this year, and I had that cold snap. I thought I was gonna die.
That's right.
And I had to put pants on for the first time in 6 months.
Not fun.
No.
I could imagine. But your boys are close by.
Yeah, my family's here.
Yeah.
My one granddaughter is in New York. She's a lighting technician on Broadway.
Oh, my goodness.
And everybody else is here.
You talk about so many celebs in the book that were on Mike Tyson, various encounters, interactions.
The stars used to come to Cleveland, and they'd go to Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 8. Okay. And now you go to Hollywood, and the guy sits 15 minutes, for Los Angeles, 15 minutes in Georgia, 15 minutes, and they don't travel like they did before. So we would catch almost everybody that went through.
Yeah.
But I always said the bigger the star, the better the person. And that Lawrence Welk was phenomenal. Muhammad Ali was phenomenal. The funniest guy though, Tim Conway.
Oh, okay.
I was going to call him Tom because that's what they
That's
call
his
him.
real name.
Yeah, and that's Tim Conway. And
So he would come back periodically. Because he was at 8.
and he was the funniest guy I ever met.
Did you ever, when you went up to Hollywood, pal around with
The
him
only-
or go to a set or anything? Get to see the Carol Burnett set or anything?
No, we went to see Ernie Anderson and in California, and we wanted to go see this guy, and Ernie kept saying, "Oh, we're gonna go to this great restaurant over here," and I go, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What I heard, such and such a restaurant, and Johnny Carson's there and everything." He goes, "Nah, you don't want to go there. All the celebrities go there. Yeah, you want to go? This is a real nice place. Nobody knows anybody. Oh, it's great. Okay, I'm a fan. I'm a tourist.
I'd like to see the celebs.
Exactly. So, and then one day, I was sitting in the back seat, and Ernie was sitting next to me, and Ernie was saying about he can do anything he wants in this town. It's his town, and blah 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 blah. And I said, and I just heard on the radio that the Dodgers have just been sold out for the last 300 and some odd games. And he goes, "What do you guys want to do tonight?" And I go, "I want to go to a baseball game." And he goes, "What do you think, this is Cleveland? Or you walk up and get a ticket?" He goes, "Okay." So he tells the driver, "Casey, go here, go here, go here." Okay. You pull up to this beautiful house. Okay. He gets out of the car, goes in the house, comes out. He has 4 tickets for that night's game. Wow. So I said, "Who'd you get them from?" He goes, "Harvey Korman." I said, "Didn't you want to introduce us? I mean, we're still sitting in the driveway."
That would have been nice. Go in and say hi to him.
Well, it turned out then years later, right over here at the Playhouse, Chuck and I opened for Tim and Harvey.
Oh, when they went on that tour a few
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Last question, the sketch or sketches that you feel these exemplify your work on the show. This is what people always want to ask you about.
Well, it was Troglodytes. That was my 4th skit, and that's when it was like the springboard. It seemed like after I did that, people would like say, "Hey, I saw you did and Bridget obviously was my first one, and then so but
People remember that too. For me, it's the sound engineer. Where
Okay.
you're running back and forth.
we did that in 1 take.
Wow.
We only done maybe 6 in 1 take, and that was one of them.
And it was very complex for people who want to find it. Well, John Rinaldi, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
It was fun.
Little John's new book is called Little John Laughing My Way Through Life. Thanks for being with us here on The Sound of Ideas. I'm Stephanie Haney. We appreciate you keeping the conversation going. We'll see you back here tomorrow.